वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा. So now here you see the Sarvastaka of Nizam of Hyderabad. Again 9, 10, 11, 30, 31, 31. How many of you mentally retain horoscopes in your mind? Now be very honest with me. Not some. You see, if you want me to teach you double transit of Saturn and Jupiter, and I say 1947, you must quickly tell me 1947 Saturn was here. Yes. Quickly you must tell. Then only you will be able to race with me. And if you don't want to do racing, let us go and have tea. But if you're racing with me, you must always remember these two planets. Keep on doing this exercise. That was Nizam of Hyderabad. Now who is this? Pardon? Yes. The one important point I want to bring to your notice in this horoscope is, see Jupiter in Navansha. Where is he? Remember Varamihir's principle, which I told you right now. Varamihir prefers Jupiter in Cancer, Leo and Aquarius, and he praises Jupiter in Leo and Aquarius. He gives it a higher rating than Jupiter in Cancer. Here in Navansha, Jupiter improves and aspects the Sun. You see the royal, the dignity, the majesty. Anyone who is appearing dignified to you in life, anyone who is appearing idealistic to you in your life, or anyone who is born with that grace of aristocracy in his life, has to have the help of Jupiter and Sun. Sun is the planet of royalty, Jupiter the planet of dignity and idealism. The simple significations, if you remember, in classical astrology you will understand these things properly. Will you please look at the degree of the Sun? How much? I will once again pose the boring question, add 1 degree 28 minutes. Right? Then in the Navansha what will happen? There will be no aspect of Jupiter on this Sun. Right? Now see the Sarvastaka. See very carefully before I point out, you point out to me. What do you notice here? What is the difference you have seen between this and the other two previous Sarvastakas? Pardon? Pardon?
The house in which Jupiter is posited in the options by 17 points.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I have so far talked about only 9th, 10th and 11th houses to you. You should have straight away looked at those three houses. Sastri has straight away said the 12th house is stronger than the 10th, 11th house. Clear? More expenditure than income. In the ordinary sense, day to day for in your horoscope and my horoscope. More expenditure than income in the case of Duke of Windsor will mean what? Inviting loss. Correct? That, remember those four principles. That is important. Dasha you have to examine, then talk about it. We'll take up each case. You rest assured. Now who is this? Yes?
Does the fact that Jupiter rules the 12th and both the ascension and the chart contribute to that as well?
Pardon?
Does the fact that Jupiter rules the 12th house and both the natal chart and the monthly chart contribute to that as well?
Should be?
Doesn't it contribute to him giving off his?
I'll come to that. We'll take up the case later. I'm only first showing you one by one. We'll take up each case later. Now who is this? King George? Sixth. What is the degree of the sun? Add 1 degree, 28. You see, Jupiter's aspect on the sun will vanish. You understand my point? Add 1 degree, 28 to the moon. Then moon will not go into his own house in Navansha and get the aspect of Jupiter. In the Navansha, Jupiter is aspecting the sun and the moon both. You see our whole, yesterday Julia was right in saying you are in the habit of creating more enemies. I said I will create many more enemies. For a very simple reason. You can't give me wrong answer and say follow my book. I will not do that. I have to explain to students. I have 460 students, the world's largest class learning. They are intelligent people. You have seen Charak and Chirmule. This level of students I have. They say, sir, how can you take this wrong Navansha and explain this principle to me? I will not take a wrong Navansha. I have to tell you, King George VI it is. Jupiter aspecting sun, Jupiter aspecting moon. I can't shift it here. And I can't make it Vargottama here. No, I mean, it would be, I can't shift it here. Yet, and remember one thing, in the case of British royalty, the time recorded is 100% correct. Do you know why? One baby was smuggled into royal chamber. It was a big scandal in British history. Lot of controversy was created. I forget now British history, you should know it better, some of you at least. Then after that, there was a big controversy, big quarrel, and when the Queen now delivers, lot of witnesses have to be present there to certify that it is the Queen who has delivered the baby and no one else. And they note down the birth time. You read books written about British royalty, you will find the birth time recorded up to seconds. For your research work, the most dependable horoscopes in the world are the horoscopes of British royalty. For your research work. and you got enough historical material also. Now here you see, this is King George VI. What is the striking point here?
Relationship between his
You see the 40 in 11, 29 in 10. Like Rajiv Gandhi, there is a big jump. In Rajiv Gandhi's case, it is 19. Now, you have seen his elder brothers earlier. The 12th is stronger than the 11th. Is it clear to you? What you mean by a snapshot view, which Parashara told Maitreyi, don't worry, I will give you some snapshot method. You will be able to give some dependable predictions. This is that method. Now here I will apologize to you for, in actually my book Planets and Children and in some other books I have used the horoscope of Queen Elizabeth showing Jupiter here. Now I had some confusion, so I got rechecked the birth time and it was actually 1:48. Second reason was different computer programs gave me different this. So I got it checked by 3 or 4 computers and I got it cast manually also. In Gemini astrology, when I teach you, this is the Raj Yoga I will speak about. So Jupiter has to be here. The Atmakaraka and Amatyakaraka together. Anyway, leaving that aside, I will come to the more important point. I will go slightly into some details in the last 2 horoscopes later. And draw your attention to some very fine points. But you just look at this horoscope. I will not ask you any question at the moment. But you treat this horoscope as an examination paper which you will be required to answer today. When I put it before you, I will ask you series of questions about this horoscope to see how strong are your fundamentals of astrology.
I assume that the Jupiter in the 10th house is a typo. Having a mistake.
Pardon?
There's 2 Jupiters in the chart. There's 2 Jupiters in the chart. There's Jupiter in the 10th and Jupiter in the 1st.
No, Jupiter in the first is what I am taking now. Right? It is not, because as I said, then I asked Vinay Aditya to get it checked. Difference. This is the one horoscope which contains extraordinary wealth of astrological combinations. My most favorite horoscopes, which I always discuss, one is of Indira Gandhi of India, second is Queen Elizabeth of England. Rarely you will come across horoscope which illustrate the classical principle of Vedic astrology so well.
Something I noticed with a lot of United States politicians over time I was watching, it seems like using Ashtakavarga that the 11th house was always stronger than the 10th.
Yes, you will statistically you will find it. Here also you find what? Is it clear? Here also the 11th house is stronger than the 10th. Then you see this. Surely you know something about her. Mark this. That is the Lagna. The mark put here is wrong. Taurus is the ascendant of Queen Victoria.
Oh, it's wrong.
The marking is wrong here. They have put a Capricorn, but it is Taurus. Right? Now again compare. Now what you have seen so far consistently is, except in the case of Duke of Windsor, in all other cases, relatively the 11th house was stronger than the 10th house in Ashtakvarga. Right? And in all the cases, luminaries and Jupiter connection has existed. Right? Now I'll take up individually case by case. This is just to give you a broad snapshot view. This is the quality and the type of research they do by taking these things statistically. I'll now go back to the horoscope of King Farouk and ask you to apply those parameters. Now each one of this becomes a case study for you. You'll have to tell me when to stop. No, because when she walks, I know there is some. Pardon? No. Once I take it up, then I'll have to finish at least one before coming back. So what do? Shall I take it up, complete it? Now please proceed slowly, very slowly. Now don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry at all. Because here it is classical astrology applied to classical horoscopes of historically well-known personalities. The 4th house contains the 9th Lord Venus. You have the horoscope before you?
Yes.
A benefic giving an excellent Kendra Trikona connection. What is the meaning of Kendra Trikona connection? 9th Lord. Who is the 9th Lord for Kanya? Virgo. In the Kendra. Not clear? If it is not clear, you must stop me and ask me now stage by stage. Huh? Now change, take Raman's Ainansha, put Tula, and this promise is gone. I am sticking to 29 degrees Kanya, please remember. Not going into Tula. Second, Jupiter is aspecting the Sun, and from its retrograde position is also aspecting the Moon. Even in the Navansha, Jupiter is aspecting the Moon. this time from the 4th house and being the 4th lord, and Lagna is Vargottama. Go back to Varamihir's principle. Vargottama moon or Vargottama sun or Vargottama Lagna lifts the quality, the strength of a horoscope. Clear? The 10th Lord Mercury is in the 6th house of opposition. The tragedy of the career is visible there. Who is the 10th Lord? Where is he placed? Aspected by. Anyway, let us examine some of the events of the king's life. 1. He was the eldest confirmed by Jupiter in the 11th house. One of the simple tests of a horoscope which will work in 60-70% cases is when in any horoscope Jupiter is in the 11th house, the person would be the eldest or the youngest child of the parents, or the youngest or the eldest in the sex in which he or she is born. Eldest daughter or youngest daughter, eldest son or the youngest son.
Can you say that again?
Jupiter in the 11th will make you either the first or the last generally, among the children or in the sex of the children, siblings. For this reason and many others, the Virgo Lagna seems correct as opposed to Libra given by Dr. Raman. Now again, go back to the horoscope. Where is the 5th Lord? Who is the 5th Lord from Virgo? And where is the 12th Lord? There is an exchange. What does 5th house represent? Education. What does the 12th house represent? Right? Remember these two principles. The 5th Lord Saturn has an exchange of places with the 12th Lord Sun, a clear indication of his foreign education in Royal Military Academy in UK. His Saturn major period began on July 17, 1925. Interestingly, he went to UK for studies in Saturn's Sun. You see how exactly Lahiri is giving you the result? One is the 12th Lord, the other is in the 12th house. And his father's name was King Faud, F-A-U-D. And he wanted his son to have a pure Orthodox Egyptian upbringing and the best of military training available then in England. So the 5th Lord in the 12th and the period is Saturn, Sun. That is the beauty of Lahiri Ainasha. You learn so many things once you begin to analyze it this way. So these are all brilliant case studies. And he will produce more than 100 on Ashtakvarga. So many of the questions you ask me today, you will find answered. And then I can ask him to come and take a workshop on Ashtakvarga for 3, 4, 5 days here. That will be better. He is doing very brilliant research on Ashtakvarga. Superlatively brilliant. So I have only brought a small sample before you. A very small sample to tempt you. to do the dry thing called Ashtakvarga, but do it manually. But suddenly his father, King Farouk, died in April 1936 in Saturn's sun Venus. Now look at the thoroughness of the research, which is the Sapsa period. And Venus belongs to which house? Is the lord of which house? Representing father. Sun is the significator of father. Venus is the lord of that house representing father. Clear?
It's also in the 8th house from the 9th.
Yes. Please note that the sub period is that of the 9th lord Venus. The sub period is that of the significator of father, sun. And the major lord is aspecting the 9th house of father. As a part of palace intrigues, the Englishman wanted to install a 70-year-old man on the throne. But how could that happen? The future king was running Saturn, Sun, Venus, the sub-lord of 9th house of luck, Venus. The sub-lord Sun posited in the 5th house of dignity. 5th house is the house of dignity. Remember that. And the major lord Saturn himself, the 5th lord of dignity. As if that was not sufficient to catapult him to the throne, the 4th lord of throne, Jupiter, was transiting over the 4th house, carrying the highest benefic points, Sarvastaka points of 32 in his horoscope. Now Jupiter and dignity. Clear?
Jupiter transiting 8th from the 9th contributes to the death of the father.
Yes. Farouk's mother was a shrewd lady. Well, all this is all taken from historically documented books. Number 1. Number 2, I told Vinay Aditya, don't take a book written on King Farouk by any Englishman. Books written about India by Englishmen are the least trustworthy books. Most intellectually dishonest books. The same relation they had. So they always portrayed him as, well, a terrible character and all that. But it is not so. So the other books I was able to procure, I gave it to him, I said, read them. From here you produce a balanced picture. On his father's death, she immediately sent a telegram to her son and got him back. With his phenomenal luck, he was crowned the king. King Farouk married in 1937-38 in Saturn moon period. When in transit, Saturn and Jupiter were fulfilling the joint obligation of covering Lagna Lord, 7th house and 7th Lord. That is the double transit again. In 1937-38, where were Saturn and Jupiter? See, that is where my difficulty comes in. You'll take a computer and try to now find out. Quickly, if you can go flashback, some of you will, I know.
Jupiter was the Capricorn or Aquarius.
Anyway, that you work on yourself. That is part of the method of verification of a horoscope. But the story of his rule is full of struggles. The 10th Lord Mercury is being aspected by the 6th Lord Saturn from the 12th house. You see, one difference in the placement of a planet will make a tremendous lot of difference to your reading of a horoscope. You change the lagna, there is no foreign education. You change the lagna, there is no struggle for power. But what was this man's life? There was a 70-year-old relation of King Farouk whom Englishmen wanted to install on the throne. Go through those unpleasant episodes of forgotten history. The shrewd mother of this man immediately sent a telegram, asked him to come back. And before Englishmen could do anything, she got him installed. And at a young age of 17 he should have been, he became the king. But the 10th Lord is in the 6th house, aspected by Saturn. Right? From the 12th house. Initially it was struggle against the nationalist party and later it was struggle against the British Empire. Inside the country there was WAFD, WAFD party, strongly nationalist. So first he had to control their turbulence. After he controlled their turbulence, he found the Englishmen also turning against him. In 1948 came the Dasha of Mercury Venus followed by Mercury Sun when he fought for the cause of the Palestinians against the advice of his well-wishers. What happened was all Muslim countries got united, boosted him up, boosted his ego, inflated his ego and said the Jewish state Israel has been formed and it should not exist. Let us all Muslims unite and blast it to pieces. That is a very unfortunate bit of advice. And all those Arabian monarchs who boosted his ego let him down badly. So who got all the blame? The leader. So 1948. Came the Dasha of Mercury Venus followed by Mercury Sun. He lost the battle against Israel. If he were not running Mercury Venus, he would have been thrown out then itself. Now that is where the role of Dasha comes in. Mercury is the 10th Lord, Venus, the 9th Lord and Venus aspecting the 10th house. Right? So the man is disgraced but not yet thrown out. Not yet thrown out, remember that. He lost the battle against Israel. If you are not running Mercury Venus, you would have been thrown out then itself. But Mercury Sun cost him the disgrace. Sun is the 12th Lord and is also in 212 position from Mercury. Isn't it? In spite of being disgraced, he cultivated lot of disgruntled people in the army, especially Nasser. Anyway, the whole thing could not be completed. The story is like this. After 1948, when he lost to Israel in the battle, other Muslim monarchs thought it was a good chance now to tell people that Egypt should not be accepted anymore as the leader of Muslim world. You know, the intrigues are always there. And this story of disaffection spread so fast that the army in Egypt was told, if this man, King Farouk, had not taken all this wrong advice, the prestige of Egypt would not have sunk so much. Someone could have killed him. Someone could have assassinated him. What is it that helped him to retain his power? The Mahadasha of the 10th Lord, the Antadasha of the 9th Lord continues. The whole world may be conspiring against you, but your Dasha is there to save you. Now here comes in the beauty of Lahiri Ainasha. Please remember, 1 degree 28 minutes you change, you destroy the whole research. Now you understand the meaning of correct Ainasha? Then what happened? There was actually a man called Najub, Naguib. Nasser was the shrewd man who put Najib in front. See, the whole story he could not give here anyway, I am first telling you. In front and he was behind, Nasser. That was the Young Army Officers Club. Now what happens is, when the bad dasha comes, there is a misjudgment always. When the bad antadasha comes, there is a misjudgment. In 1952, what happened? He was asked to board a ship and leave the country on July 22, 1952. Now go back to the horoscope and see where his moon is. Where? Okay. In 1952, where was Saturn? Very good. Virgo. And what is the strength of Sarvastaka in Virgo? Huh? Now you see, what had I told you? Saturn is what? Power. Had I told you that? Sade Sati is beginning. And he is losing power. Saturn says, sorry, I am in no position to protect you anymore, my dear fellow. I need more vitamins. So long as Saturn was in Leo, no one could touch him in spite of his being disgraced. But now the Dasha undergoes a change. The Antadasha undergoes a change. Saturn becomes weak. So come to the fourth point here. This fourth point. Weak. Am I clear now? These are historically documented cases. My only difference, of course, is, as I told you, 29 degrees something of Kanya. Lahiri alone explains this. You take notable horoscopes of Dr. Raman, you will not find the logical explanations I have given you here. Not one of them. Are you now convinced about this thing? Vargottama Lagna 29 degrees. What a difference it is making. And the Sade Sati becoming so weak, terribly weak. That is the meaning of Sade Sati now. But they were all very decent people. They just told him, we will do nothing but you leave. They didn't kill him. And so decent that his own sister and other relations, they asked Najib that they wanted to see him off. They were allowed. He went and he was seen off majestically in a ship on one condition only, that he would never come back to Egypt again in his life. It was like Marshal Tito removing all his political opponents on one condition: you will not be killed as Stalin killed other people. No. You will have to retire from politics if you want to remain in Yugoslavia, or leave Yugoslavia forever. Almost he was treated like that. In 19, now the 8th law, now that is the important thing again here. In spite of being disgraced, he cultivated a lot of disgruntled people in the army, especially Nasser. He was asked to board a ship and leave the country on July 22, 1952, when he was running Mercury Moon. Normally, you do not lose in the period of the 11th Lord, especially when it is in the second house. But his 11th Lord is badly mauled by Rahu, 8th Lord Mars, and the aspect of 6th Lord Saturn. It is not merely a weak Sade Sati. It is the 11th Lord who has become so terribly afflicted. The 11th, in the sub period of the 11th Lord, you cannot lose. You have to gain normally. But here the 11th Lord has triple affliction: Rahu, Mars, Saturn. The 8th Lord Mars had the army conspiracy. Mars represents police, army. You know that. 8th house is the house of intrigues. And finally overthrew him. It was a case of consistently declining sub-periods. From Venus, when he could save the throne despite disgrace, to the Sun, then the Moon, Mars and Rahu. You see, now the subsequent in medical astrology, that's what Dr. Charak does beautifully. See the subsequent sub-periods coming, whether it is declining, the curve, rising, whether it is for health or worldly fortune, anything. So what you are finding? Venus, good. Kanya Lagna, 9th Lord, and in the 4th house, and in the house of Jupiter, Sagittarius. Remember, Sagittarius always as a very important sign of royalty. Dhanu, Kodanda Rashi is the word used. Venus period is followed by that of the Sun. Sun is still in the 5th house. There is dignity left, though the 12th Lord. Followed by that of the Moon. Moon is most afflicted here. The Moon. Followed by Mars, the Lord of the 8th. Then that of Rahu. Now all getting connected with the 2nd house of death. Finally, I'll ask you a question. If you were to give him Tula Lagna and exalted Jupiter in the 10th house, would not this horoscope increase in longevity? This man would have had a longer life. How can you accept any Lagna other than Kanya, even for life? In 1952, all his resistance had gone. Saturn was passing over Virgo, his weakest house, carrying only 19 points in Sarvastaka. It was a clear case of a quantum decline. from Leo 30 to Virgo 19. Now you have seen the reverse case here. And with this reverse case, his Sadesati is beginning. You see, the romance of history is now speaking in the language of astrology to you now.
Do you consider all those 7.5 years equal, or does it start getting difficult as it goes to the moon, and then when it leaves the moon gets a little?
House by house.
Is the first house, the 12th in the moon is the,
Yes, if 12th is strong, it will save.
and then the moon is the
Yes, correct.
Does it get weaker when it comes out?
Yes, correct. Earlier I had shown you the example of D.N. Dikshit. Moreover, his dreaded Sadesati began. Virgo is the 12th house from his natal moon. So now you see the quantum decline. We have so far given examples of quantum jump. When there is a quantum decline and the dasha, etc., everything, the fourth point comes in weak, and he has to go out.
If you're working for advice at this point in time, right before you went into sunset, what would your goal?
What would my advice have been? Well, my advice would still not have saved because there was nothing to save him there. Except that he would have killed me.
Well, you would actually
There is a Sanskrit saying, you may feel hurt about it, but there is a Sanskrit saying, never presume that a king, a river in flood,